All right, let's just get right into it. Society has, well, it's kind of lied to us. You know the story you've been told, right? That the path to success is a huge income, a massive house, a fancy car. But what if that's completely backwards? What if the very things we're chasing to feel rich are actually making us poor and trapped? Today, we're going to tear that whole paradox apart. So let me just ask you this right off the bat. Does your salary actually make you free? I mean, we're all taught to believe that a bigger paycheck equals more security, more choices, the good life, but is that actually true? We're about to put that core belief to the test. This right here, this just lays out the whole problem perfectly. Just try to picture this for a second. Someone earning $1 million a year who is completely, totally broke. They're trapped. Now imagine their friend making just 40 grand a year who is 100% free. How on earth is that possible? Well, that is the golden handcuff paradox we're getting into.
So, where does this all start? Well, it begins with something the financial writer J.L. Collins calls the tyranny of must-haves. And man, this is the first big trap we're all programmed to walk right into. We just assume that getting more stuff means we're living a better life. But you know what? It's a really, really dangerous illusion.
And I think we've all been there, right? You get that paycheck, you feel that rush of excitement, and boom, you go out and buy that big thing you've been eyeing. You get that little dopamine hit, you feel successful for a moment, but then a week later, the cash is gone. And you're selling that exact same thing just to put food on the table. It's this crazy self-imposed cycle of stress.
You know, the psychology of why we buy things is just wild. Let's be honest. A lot of the time we think we're buying this stuff to impress people, right? To show off our status. But here's the cold, hard truth. Nobody is looking at you. They're looking at the car, they're looking at the house, and they're just imagining themselves with it. You're basically invisible.
So here's the real kicker. Every time you add another expensive must-have to your life, that new car payment, the bigger house payment, whatever it is, you're not actually raising your standard of living. Nope. You're just raising your cost of living. You are literally lowering what we'll call your freedom score. You're just tightening the chains that tie you to that one job, that one income.
Okay, and that leads us to the next big one. And honestly, this one's pretty controversial. From the time we're kids, we're told that buying a house is the absolute cornerstone of the American dream, that it's the smartest financial move you can make. But is it really?
This is such a powerful way to think about it. A mortgage isn't just a financial burden, it's a psychological anchor. Seriously, think about it. That dream job, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, opens up on the other side of the country. If you're renting, you can pack up and go. But if you're chained to a mortgage, you're stuck. You literally miss out on life because you're anchored to a building.
And let's just talk pure numbers for a second. We've all heard that renting is throwing money away, right? But flip that script. When you rent, your monthly payment is the absolute maximum you're going to pay for housing that month, period. When you own a house, your mortgage payment is the bare minimum you'll pay. Everything else just piles on top of that.
And those extra costs, oh, they can be absolutely devastating. Your roof goes, that could be 20,000 bucks, just like that. Septic tank fails, there goes another 25 grand. We're not talking about small repairs here. These are financial bombs. And don't forget, the bank wants you to buy the biggest house you can possibly afford. Why? Because that's how they make a ton of money off your debt. It's not about helping you build wealth. Okay, so we've kind of ripped apart some big myths here. We've seen how these so-called must-haves and even buying a house can be a huge trap. So what's the alternative? What is the actual, simple path to real, honest-to-God freedom?
The whole goal here is to build what the author calls, well, FU money. And look, this isn't about some far-off finish line where you retire on a beach at 65. That's the old way of thinking. This is about building up your financial strength right now, along the way. Every single dollar you save is another brick in your wall of freedom. It gives you the power to just walk away from a horrible boss, a bad situation, anything that just isn't right for you. It's about having freedom today.
So the big question is, where do you put this money you're starting to save? This is the part where most people get scared, and they start treating the stock market like a casino. But there's this absolutely brilliant analogy for it. The market is like a big glass of beer. The actual beer in the glass, that's the real solid value of all the companies out there. And the foam on top, that's just the day-to-day hype, the screaming news headlines, the speculation, the panic.
So, the actual path to wealth? It's incredibly, unbelievably boring.
And that's exactly why it works so well. Step 1. You have to ignore the foam. Just turn off the financial news. Seriously. Step 2. Buy the whole beer. You do this with something called a low-cost index fund. It basically means you own a teeny tiny piece of all the major companies. And step 3, you just wait. That's it. You let it do its thing. You're investing. You're not gambling.
And look, this is way more doable than you might think. The math here is really simple, but it's so powerful. If you start young and just put away $500 a month into one of these index funds, the magic of compound growth means you'll very likely end up a millionaire by the time you retire. And it's not because you're some stock-picking genius, it's just because you were consistent.
All right, I want to leave you with a powerful little story that, for me, just wraps this entire philosophy up perfectly. It's the story of the monk and the minister.
So the story goes, two friends from the same village grow up and go their separate ways. One of them becomes this powerful minister in the king's court. He's living in total luxury, wearing these fine, expensive robes. The other becomes a simple monk, living a very humble life on basically just rice and beans.
Years later, they run into each other. And the minister, he looks down his nose at the monk's simple bowl of food and says, if you just learned to please the king, you wouldn't have to live on rice and beans. But the monk just smiles and says this back to him. And this is the whole point of everything. Real power isn't about earning more so you can afford the fancy stuff. It's about needing less so you don't have to answer to any king.
So really, the ultimate goal here isn't just to get rich. It's to be the monk. It's to build a life for yourself where your needs are so simple that no boss, no bank, no shiny must-have item can ever own you. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Who or what is your king?